Welcome back here on a Thursday night. Dave Wilson and Antoine C. Wright, our State House insiders. We'll be touching on some stuff going on at the State House next week in a few moments. But we want to focus tonight on President Trump and the troubles that are going on in Washington, D.C. now, especially the latest news now that there is a memo, James Comey says, supposedly in a memo from back in February, that Trump was basically asking him to stop the Michael Flynn investigation. Do you guys think there's any veracity to this story?
I wouldn't doubt it in the least. I mean, you look right now at a guy, if you read the first few pages of The Art of the Deal, you begin to see very quickly a man who has a mindset that goes into what am I going to do to make a deal today, which means I don't necessarily have to follow the rules when it comes to what needs to be done.
This is a classic example of the consequences of elections. That's number one. This is another classic example of leopards will not change their spots,
no.
And zebras will never change their stripes. This guy, from the day he walked into office, has been disaster in chief instead of president in chief. And now, according to this memo, he is being interferer in chief.
Before we go any further, I want to play some sound from May 3rd. That is when he was still FBI Director, James Comey, testifying in front of a Senate panel, and he was asked specifically about people interfering or asking him to stop investigations. Here's that exchange. Take a listen to what he said under oath on May 3rd.
If the Attorney General or senior officials at the Department of Justice opposes a specific investigation, can they halt that FBI investigation?
In theory, yes.
Has it happened?
Not in my experience, because it would be a big deal to tell the FBI to stop doing something that without an appropriate purpose. I mean, oftentimes they give us opinions that we don't see a case there, and so you ought to stop investing resources in it. But I'm talking about a situation where we were told to stop something for a political reason. That would be a very big deal. It's not happened in my experience.
So how does this square? Because supposedly the Comey memo was from February. This was under oath earlier this month, May 3rd, when he says this has not happened, and it would be a big deal if it happened. So how do these two things square up?
This is why you have a problem with people wondering exactly what's going on in Washington, because honestly I feel sometimes like we live in an edition of House of Cards, because there is so many places where the administration is saying one thing, reality is something else, and it's happening. It's been happening for administration after administration. It is so easy right now, especially in today's technology, to be able to make it happen and appear at a moment's notice.
Here are the facts as we know them. The President of the United States asked the Vice President and the Attorney General to leave the room. Mr. Comey has a history of keeping notes, according to people around him, when things do not go, quote unquote, the way they're supposed to. Now, what he said on the oath, I interpreted a little different. Maybe I thought he was answering the question directly. I don't know if the question was directly, did the President of the United States try to interfere with the ongoing investigation? I don't know if that was the question. So I think if and when Mr. Comey testifies before the U.S. Congress under oath again, I think we'll get some real answers. I think the big deal in all this is the way this will be handled going forward. We've seen Republicans and Democrats all say the same thing. It's time to put patriotism above country and get real answers, above politics, I'm sorry.
If President Trump asked the then FBI director to basically look the other way with Michael Flynn and drop this investigation, did he have a duty to report this to the Department of Justice?
I think he has a duty to report that information. And the reality is, if you go back and you look, like Antoine says, he takes copious notes and he makes memos of every conversation that he has, because he is going to cover his tracks. The reality is, I think Comey knew something would be going down, and he has made a paper trail that goes all the way back most likely to the Oval Office.
But what we also don't know is when he was going to reveal this at one point in time. Because as we know, the investigation into the Russian stuff didn't just happen overnight. There was an ongoing investigation. So perhaps it could have been revealed later on.
All right, quickly, we want to touch on next week. We don't have much time here left. What happens next week? Lawmakers are coming back to deal with the budget here in Columbia. Is that right?
And we hope it'll be one day. And we hope that Democrats Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate, will get together and pass a reasonable, responsible budget that will be good for the people of South Carolina. I think we did a good job of dealing with politics all session. Now the roads bill is done. Let's pass a budget that makes sense.
Roads, we got out of the way. It's time to focus on the budget right now because next year is going to come back and be a whole new set of things.
All right, Dave Wilson, Antoine C. Wright, Republican and Democratic strategist, thank you so much for your inside views on what's going on, not only inside our State House, but our nation's capital as well.
All right, folks, welcome back for this special edition of The Insiders right here on News 19 at 7. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster has signed an executive order that stops the state from giving any funding to medical practices that are affiliated with abortion. Dave Wilson, Antoine C. Wright, thank you both so much for joining us today to talk more about this. Obviously, you both have very different opinions on the governor's executive order.
We will somewhat agree on certain issues. This is one I think that will actually, Darcy, split straight down the line.
With that being said, I'll let you lead.
I think the governor's stance on this is that a vast majority of South Carolinians are not supportive of abortion, and he's taking funding away through state agencies that fund the 3 Planned Parenthood locations that are in Greenville, in Columbia, and in Charleston. And that's 1,800 abortions that are done every single year. It's a move that was done by the governor. Or should we look at it as, is it possibly something that's being done from a political standpoint? I'm not going to argue and tell you no, but at the same time, from the pro-life standpoint, it's something that is going to be applauded by the pro-life community and especially the conservatives on the right.
It's a true sad day in our state. Instead of talking about quality of life issues, how do we work to improve the quality of life for working class South Carolinians, Dave and Darcy? We have these political distractions, very similar to what we see from the 45th president. Here's the bottom line. Instead of the executive office trying to figure out how can 300,000 working people in our state have access to health care coverage, instead of trying to figure out why 5 rural hospitals have closed in our state, we have these distractions on a dry news Friday. Very, very, very non-executive like. Here's the bottom line. This is national politics being invoked in South Carolina politics. This is a stab.
I disagree.
No, look, Dave, I did not interrupt you on purpose.
Yeah.
This is a shot at Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, for those who are watching at home and see all the headlines and the right-wing rhetoric, Planned Parenthood provides pregnancy testing. They provide services for underprivileged, for women who cannot necessarily afford these things. And so what this will do was just take a real shot at Planned Parenthood. And finally, Dave, you know this because you've been at the State House. Every year in the budget, there's a proviso that says that under these 3 circumstances, rape and incest and the life expectancy of the mother, the government will pay for abortions. Now, what the governor's executive order would have done today is possibly put that at risk, and you will have a mother who could be dying on a table in a hospital somewhere in South Carolina that could literally die because the governor's plan.
That's
the
being
governor
cut.
It could be.
Actually, Dave, it does say that he does say that it is funding in providers and it's Medicaid. So if you are,
Dave, Medicaid funds our hospitals.
So let's theoretically argue this from the other side of the standpoint. I mean, if you're talking right now, the place where you can get pregnancy tests, where you can get tests for STDs, STIs. There are ministries like Daybreak Pregnancy Center that is actually right across the parking lot from Planned Parenthood that is offering that to women for free and has been doing it in Columbia for 30 years. But here's the thing about it. What this is this is tapping into, and this goes back to what we're talking about, it taps into a very emotional issue. So if you want to dig underneath everything and get past the talking points on both sides, then you've got to realize very quickly that this is what we're looking at from that standpoint of an argument for Planned Parenthood to not receiving funding, when reality is we're in the middle of a discussion right now about broader issues that are taking place.
Darcy, let's not forget the governor is actually late to the party on this one because the current Lieutenant Governor, Kevin Bryant, announced in June that he would block any funding as it relates to abortion clinics and any budget providers. But here's the bottom line. No one is fooled by this. This is all a political primary move for the governor. And that's fine at what he wants to do. But when a woman is sitting on a table in a hospital somewhere in South Carolina, and because of that bipartisan budget proviso that's in the Senate every year, when that funding is stopped, Darcy, then the governor and whomever else wants to get on this train to nowhere will have some real questions to answer.
So for the 1,800 children who lose their lives every single year to abortion, that's the other side of this argument that my friends on the left don't seem to want to talk about right now.
Dave,
I've given you the opportunity to talk.
We're not having a discussion about whether abortion is right or wrong.
We're talking everything about abortion. This is about abortion, Antoine.
It's not, Dave, because here's the thing.
Wait. We're talking about abortion and abortion funding, right, Darcy?
We're talking about.
If I could redirect both of you in this last minute and give you an opportunity to state your point clearly, because I'm the only one standing at the table with a uterus. Let's just be honest here. And for our viewers who are women out here, they feel very strongly one way or another. Is it safe to say that there will be a audience of people who believe that it is not fair for the governor to play politics with such an emotional issue? And I'll give you both an opportunity to answer. Dave, you answer first.
I think this is an opportunity for the governor to say, as South Carolinians, we're supporting the right to life for both the child, who tends to be the one that we forget about here, and it goes beyond just a woman's reproductive right, but a life right that we all celebrate.
I will say, I'm not in the business of telling a woman, like my mother or my sister or even my nieces one day, what to do with their body. I have enough trouble trying to keep up with this raggedy body of mine. That's not my thing. And for the Republican Party, who all have this message about less government telling people what to do, it's kind of hypocritical for them to say this. All I would tell you is this: everyone will have their opinion whether abortion is right or wrong. I know what my faith tells me, and I know what I would, if I was in a situation, what I would do. But here's what I think most people agree, Christians and non-Christians, wherever your religion may be. Rape, incest, and the life expectancy of a mother, I think that's where the rubber meets the road. And if this impacts that, I think it's going to be a bigger political fight than more people expect.
And it will impact that based on this executive order. And as I wrap up, because we are out of time, gentlemen, first of all, I appreciate you both being here.
It's great to have you here,
spirited
Darcy.
conversation.
Yeah.
And just
I love the healthy dialogue.
Right. And as a wrap-up point, I do need our viewers to know that Planned Parenthood also offers services for men's health care.
All right, welcome in. It is Thursday night and time for another edition of The Insiders. Antoine Seawright, Dave Wilson, as always, Democratic and Republican strategists, thank you for your time. Breaking today, the president signing an executive order on health care, basically allowing for perhaps smaller, skinnier health care plans to be purchased out there. How does that affect South Carolinians?
Small business owners have a better opportunity, and individuals, to have plans that they can actually afford. Because right now, it's kind of like buying car insurance. You can buy a comprehensive, very detailed plan, or you can buy a smaller plan that's just enough for the coverage that you need. I mean, take a look at advertisers that are on the air at different times, and you can see the different types of policies that are out there. But in South Carolina, we have one major insurance company, and that's Blue Cross Blue Shield, on the exchange in this state. How much of an impact that's going to have is really going to be dependent upon whether or not they start offering something different.
This is hypocrisy 101. The same president and the same Republican Party who criticized President Obama for signing an executive order on immigration because the Congress didn't want to get anything done are now saying, hey guys, let's stroke a pen and let's do something about health care. What Dave didn't tell the people at home is the fact that if you are a sick person, then you're going to pay more under this scenario. And this is not the gospel according to Antoine Seawright. This is healthcare experts across the land who said, look, if you're a sick person, you're going to pay more. And all the things in the Affordable Care Act that regulated insurance companies, right now we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month for women who have a pre-existing condition called breast cancer. You are likely to pay more for your plan, or let's just say, Dave.
But it's a different kind of insurance, Antoine. It is not the comprehensive plan.
It's less comprehensive.
Right, it's less comprehensive. That's the whole idea, because some people can't afford to be shucking out $300, $400, $500 a month, especially in a state right now where we have electricity rates that are shooting through the roof because of that.
But some critics are saying this is the beginning of the end of Obamacare. What do you guys
It's the
think?
beginning of the end of the changes that Obama said after he signed the bill. This is not a perfect law. It needs to be changed over time.
Dave, that's a cute talking point. But
Here's a Barack Obama talking point,
Dave,
Antoine.
my friend, my brother from another political mother. It's a cute talking point. But here's the deal. When a woman, we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, goes to get a screen like some women are doing right now as we talk on the show, and they find out they're diagnosed with breast cancer, that is now a condition that their skinny plan that they prepaid for perhaps did not cover. However,
but if they chose, but it's the choice, Antoine, of the skinny plan.
But you do not know what's going to happen tomorrow as it relates to your health. So when you say, I'm going to sign up for a skinny plan or less comprehensive, let's say you get diagnosed with something, that plan is not going to cover it. So in the end, you're going to be out of a lot of money and a lot of resources.
Because you made a choice, Antoine,
well,
for the type of coverage that you want.
We want to move on. We're going to stick with President Trump, but a different subject. He's headed to the upstate next Monday for a fundraiser for Governor Henry McMaster. What are you guys looking forward with that trip?
Well, let me just tell you, Trump is going to throw out so much.
This is his favorite topic right here.
Trump is going to throw out so much red meat that heart disease is going to go up in South Carolina when he leaves.
You're going to need that health
and
care
people are going to
policy.
need that Obamacare policy because he's going to throw out so much red meat. I think this is a true indication that perhaps the governor feels some sort of political wind that may be blown in a direction that he did not anticipate. So we'll have to see. Mr. Trump campaigned for a candidate in Alabama, and his candidate ended up losing in the Republican primary. So it's a wait-and-see game.
It is a tight race financially right now, JR, between Catherine Templeton and Henry McMaster. The governor's looking at this going, this is an opportunity for me to capitalize. I can bring the president into the state, put more money into the coffers because we're already at the $2 million mark that they have raised, and we are still 34 weeks away from an election.
And keep in mind strategically where he's going. He's going to Greenville, Spartanburg, the upstate
where
area.
He's been spending a lot of time recently.
And so we'll just have to see what this means. But I'm no expert in Republican politics. What I can tell you is that I feel really good about the Democratic chances of possibly taking back the governor's mansion next year.
Let's talk about the Democratic chances, because now the Democratic Party was looking for a candidate to run next year. Now you got two. Phil Noble.
Two and holding, because I'm sure there'll be other names floating. Senator John Scott here in Richland County. I've heard some other names that I won't mention on the air who are seriously thinking about it. So, but political primaries are like political scrimmages. They're good. They're good for the party.
The thing about it, JR, is it allows the different ideas to bring brought to the table. It's the marketplace of ideas where people can really, on the party side, at least start arguing their points and determine which of these candidates is going to be best. The interesting part's going to be what's going to happen with the lieutenant governor and whether or not someone's going to choose a lieutenant governor partner before or after the primary.
All right, nothing to debate about, but let's quickly, as we wrap up, you guys going to the state fair?
Turkey wings.
You going to the fair?
Wait.
We're not just going to the fair, JR.
We're ready to go to the fair right there.
These shirts on behalf of WLTX.
Yes, we are.
Dave, look at the back. Look at that.
Feel good about fun, because that's what we do here every Thursday night with JR.
Yeah, we got a good look.